Hello and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Hope everyone is doing well. Today I have 4 Reddit stories for you guys. All credit goes to the original posters of these stories, and I will link them in the description. Why can't anyone else see it? I think something is wrong, or maybe I'm just going crazy, but I swear it's real. The rain is real. It started last week. My friend asking me if I wanted to go to the beach. I immediately assumed it was a joke, as the sky was dark and heavy with clouds and rain was pouring down. Now, I have no problem with watching the sea churn with rain and wind, but my friend, she hates the rain. So when she called to check as she was leaving her house, I was confused. The heavens are absolutely opened. Are you sure you want to go out? I asked when her face popped up on my screen. What are you talking about? It's gorgeous outside, she laughed. Now, I was very confused. Granted, Irish weather changes as you blink, but she lived 10 minutes away from me. You don't have rain at yours? I asked, my mind already dismissing this as a strange but not unheard of weather phenomenon. Not a drop. Now get ready. I'll be over to yours in a few minutes. She hung up and I began hunting down shoes and my ever-present vape. But as soon as I stepped outside, I was drenched. Rain so cold it stole my breath away and made me shiver. May isn't usually overly warm, but here this is ridiculous. I rolled my eyes and headed quickly across the courtyard to the stairs. My friend had already texted me she was downstairs, so at least I would be in a warm and dry car soon. As she parked, and even through the rain, I could see she was in summer clothes. I hopped into her car and turned to ask how she was dry when I noticed something. I was dry. The rain that I had gotten caught in seemed to have vanished off my skin. But it was still raining outside. Dark, heavy sheets of rain that made it difficult to see outside. So why did you pick the worst day of the year to go to the beach? I laughed as I put on my seatbelt. She glanced at me with a hint of something in her eyes, either confusion or concern. This is the second time you said that, she said slowly. Said what? I asked with the same confusion as we headed down the road. It's not raining, like at all. The sky is clear and it's warm. Do you really think it's raining? I paused, taking another quick look outside. All I could see were dark clouds and sheets of rain. Now I should mention I do have a few mental health issues, but I've never imagined weather. But my friend was insisting the weather was fine, so maybe it was all in my head. I shook my head. Maybe I was just exhausted. Ignore me. I haven't been sleeping well, and you know what I'm like. I softly laughed, hoping she would drop it. She glanced at me and rolled her eyes as she chuckled, and we headed off. I tried my best to not look outside as we drove, focusing on chatting with my friend and listening to music. I'd almost convinced myself that the rain was just my brain telling me I needed more sleep. But then we got to the beach. My friend hopped out to find the bathroom, but I was frozen. The sky had been darker. I'd never seen heavier rain hammer down outside. It was the kind of weather I'd been nervous of as a child. The type of weather that had an edge to it that made you feel very small and very helpless against it. The thunder rumbled in the distance, but nobody on the beach even glanced up. They laughed and swam, acting like the weather was perfect for a day at the beach. I didn't even notice when my friend got back in the car, jumping when she tapped my shoulder. I turned to face her, swallowing a scream when I saw her face. It was wrong. Nothing was out of place. She was dressed the same, but it wasn't my friend. Her normally bright blue eyes were darker. Her smile was sharper. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. When I opened my eyes again, she was the same as always. Her eyes filled with concern as she looked at me, the type of concern that hurt me to see. I'm so sorry. I don't think I'm up for a day put. It's come on suddenly and I think I need sleep, I sighed, hoping she would understand. She did. We had been friends for 20 years, and she knew when I needed sleep. Immediately she began the drive home, but not before I took a final look back at the beach. The rain has turned more solid, slowly becoming hail, but nobody noticed. Nobody moved. They all just stared at the car as we drove away. My friend said nothing about it, and she was silent on the drive home. Occasional glances at me that I caught while I faked being asleep. I woke up as we turned on the bridge to my building. The rain hadn't stopped. The tide was high and creeping closer the bridge every second. The town was full, everyone going about their business as if a biblical flood wasn't happening. I just wanted to get into the flat and lock the doors as soon as I could, get into my bed and sleep until my brain stopped being like this. As the car stopped, I leaned over to hug my friend, muttering an apology for ruining the day. She returned the hug, assured me nothing was ruined, and that she would check on me later. I turned to open the door and froze when her reflection caught my eye. Her face. Her face was twisted and blurred, like she was trapped underwater. I swallowed hard and legged it across the road to my building. I didn't dare slow down, afraid to even look at a window for fear of seeing it again. I ran upstairs to my flat and locked the front door as soon as I was inside. I also locked my bedroom door and just got into bed under my duvet. The rain had somehow gotten heavier, and I could swear I can hear my name being called. This was a week ago, and I've barely left my home. The rain hasn't stopped. My friend and boyfriend all insist the weather has been beautiful, and if I'd just come outside, I'd be happy. They've become even more insistent the last couple of days. I can hear them now, hammering on my front door and shouting that the rain isn't real and they can just show me. Am I going crazy? Is it really raining? I can't take this anymore. I'm going to let them in and see what the truth is, no matter the truth. A car keeps showing up at 2 a.m. I think I know what it wants. It was a typical Tuesday night. I had just finished a long day at work and was looking forward to getting some rest. I crawled into bed and quickly fell asleep, only to be jolted awake a few hours later. I glanced at the clock and groaned. It was only 2 a.m. I tried to go back to sleep, but something was nagging at the back of my mind. I got out of bed and walked over to the window, peering out into the darkness. That's when I saw it, a car, parked in my driveway. It was a beat-up old sedan with rusted outdoors and a cracked windshield. It looked like it had been abandoned for years. But what was it doing in my driveway at 2 a.m.? I rubbed my eyes and blinked a few times, thinking maybe I was seeing things. But the car was still there, and it seemed to be taunting me. It was like it knew I was watching it. I felt a chill run down my spine, and I quickly closed the curtains, trying to shake off the feeling. I paced around my bedroom for a few minutes, trying to decide what to do. Should I call the police? Should I go outside and investigate? Should I just ignore it and go back to bed? I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about this car. As I debated my options, I noticed something strange. The clock read 3 a.m., but the car was gone. It had vanished into thin air. I felt a wave of unease wash over me. How could a car just disappear like that? I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, I woke up feeling exhausted and on edge. I couldn't stop thinking about the car. I tried to convince myself that it was just a coincidence, that someone had parked there and then driven away in the middle of the night. But I knew deep down that something wasn't right. Over the next few nights, the car appeared at 2 a.m. and disappeared at 3 a.m. like clockwork. I started to dread going to bed, knowing that I would inevitably be woken up by the sound of an engine rumbling outside my window. I tried to talk to my neighbors about it, but they all acted like I was crazy. They had never seen the car, and they didn't seem to believe me when I told them about it. I started to feel like I was losing my mind. One night, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I waited until the car appeared in my driveway. Then I grabbed a flashlight and went outside. As I approached the car, I felt a sense of dread wash over me. I could hear the sound of the engine running. Even though the car was empty, I shined my flashlight inside and saw that the steering wheel was turning on its own, as if someone or something was driving the car. I backed away slowly, my heart racing. As I turned to go back inside, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Standing at the end of my driveway was a figure in a black hooded cloak. I couldn't see its face, but I could see its eyes on me. I turned and ran back into the house, locking the door behind me. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, I decided that I needed to get to the bottom of this. I did some research and discovered that my house was built on the site of an old graveyard. which had been relocated in the 1930s. I started to wonder if the car and that hooded figure were somehow connected to the graveyard. That same night, I decided to stake out the graveyard. I parked my car across the street and waited. At 2 a.m., the beat-up sedan appeared in my driveway. I watched it closely, trying to see if anyone was driving it. But as I watched, the car started to shake and rattle, as if it was being pulled by an invisible force. Then it started to rise off the ground, hovering in midair. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The car was defying the laws of physics. And then something even more bizarre happened. The hooded figure appeared out of nowhere, standing next to the hovering car. It reached out and touched the car, and then both the car and the figure disappeared into thin air. I sat there in shock, not sure what to make of what I had just witnessed. But then I heard a voice in my head. It was the voice of the hooded figure speaking directly to me. "You have been chosen," the voice said. "You are the one who will help us." I didn't know what to make of it. Was I going crazy? Or was this really happening? I sat there for a few more minutes trying to process everything, and then I made a decision. I got out of my car and walked over to where the car and the figure had disappeared. There was nothing there but empty air, but I knew what I had to do. I closed my eyes and concentrated, trying to reach out to the hooded figure. "I'm ready," I said. "I'll help you." Suddenly, I felt a rush of energy flow through me. It was like nothing I had ever experienced before. I felt empowered, like I had a purpose in life. And then I heard the sound that made my heart skip a beat. The beat-up sedan was back, parked in my driveway. I walked over to it and opened the door. Inside, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The driver's seat was empty, but the passenger seat was occupied by a skeletal figure, its bony fingers clutching the steering wheel. I didn't know what to do, but then I felt the hooded figure's presence again. It was guiding me, telling me what to do. "Get in the car," it said. "You are the only one who can drive it." I hesitated for a moment, but then I knew that I had no choice. I climbed into the driver's seat and took hold of the steering wheel. The skeletal figure in the passenger seat turned to look at me, its empty eye sockets staring into mine. And then we were off. The car sped down the road faster than I had ever driven before. I felt the wind rushing through my hair, and I heard the hooded figure's voice in my head guiding me. We drove for what felt like hours, but it could have been minutes or days for all I knew. And then we arrived at our destination. It was dark, foreboding castle looming in the distance. "Welcome," the hooded figure said. "This is where you will help us." I didn't know what was going to happen next, but I knew that I had been chosen for a reason, and I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. My story of being extorted on the beach. I don't know when you will read this, but I was out one day and I had one friend with me. First, I went to the mall. It was raining that day and the weather was very gloomy, but the rain stopped at noon, so I thought I'd take a walk on the beach since it stopped raining. I left the mall with my friend, got in the tram, and went to the beach. We got off at a stop and started walking on the beach. We were chatting with my friend while we were walking, when 3 young people between the ages of 21 to 22 came up to us and asked for cigarettes. We said we don't have it. Then someone asked for money. We said we don't have money. Then we asked the younger people their age, and their answer was, "Our age does not matter. If you want to fight, come." We were shocked by this answer and could not say anything. Then someone took a knife out of his pocket and gave them phones, wallets, everything else, or we can't get you out of here alive. Then the other 2 took the knife out of his pocket. Me and my friend were very stressed, and we gave the kids a small amount of money to calm down and waited for them to calm down, but it was not at all what we expected, and they asked for more by threatening with a knife in their hand. Then I couldn't resist and punched one of them. The person I punched fell to the ground, and I took the knife to the other 2 and said, "Don't come close." But my friend was so scared, couldn't go, do nothing. Then the other 2 came, and although I avoided the blade swings, I could do nothing against the 2 of them, and meanwhile the 3rd stood up. So I gave everything in my pocket, my phone, my wallet, to the young people, or they would have killed me, and my friend gave everything. We called the police right after the incident, and the police arrived at the scene in about 10 minutes. When the police came, we went to the police station to testify and told the story. Then we described the appearance of the people who attacked us, and the police said that there were 2 reports that week with these people, even their outfits, so it wasn't the first crime of those who attacked us. They committed a crime even the week of the incident. The police said they would take care of the incident, and we returned home with everything stolen. The next day, the police called us to testify again, and they asked for information about the stolen phones and wallets, and we said everything. Then we went back to our homes. Afterwards, there was no sound from the police, and the incident was closed. What happened was our stolen goods. We spent a lot of money to buy new ones, and I had to deal with the bank and phone operator for the stolen phone and the credit card and the wallet. As a result, my friend developed agoraphobia to a large extent. But I wasn't psychologically affected by this event, but my friend was, and so the event ended. Anyway, thank you all for reading. The Old Woman. I was on my way home from a late night shift at the hospital when my car broke down on a deserted stretch of road. I was miles away from civilization and my phone had no signal. I was stranded. As I sat in my car, feeling helpless, I saw an old woman walking down the road towards me. She looked frail and tired, and I felt sorry for her. I rolled down my window and asked if she needed help. The woman smiled at me, and I could see that she only had a few teeth left. She said that she lived nearby and offered to let me stay the night at her house while I waited for a tow truck. I was hesitant, but I didn't have any other option. I got out of my car, and the woman led me down a narrow path that led to a small, dilapidated house. The woman's house was old and musty, and I felt uneasy as soon as I stepped inside. The furniture was old and worn, and the walls were covered in faded wallpaper. I noticed that there were no family photos or personal belongings in the house. It was as if the woman lived alone. I was exhausted, and the woman offered me a room to rest in. As I lay in bed, I could hear strange noises come from the rest of the house. It sounded like someone was moving around. When I got up to investigate, there was no one there. I tried to sleep, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The house felt alive, like it was hiding secrets in its walls. I was scared, but I didn't want to be rude to the old woman who had offered me a place to stay. I decided to tough it out and try to get some rest. But then I heard a blood-curdling scream coming from outside my room. I jumped out of bed and ran towards the sound. I found the old woman lying on the floor in a pool of blood, her throat slashed open. I was horrified and ran back to my room to call for help, but my phone was missing. I searched the entire house, but I couldn't find it. I realized that I was trapped in the house with a killer, and I had to find a way to escape. I searched the house again, looking for any clues or weapons that could help me. That's when I found a hidden door in a basement. It led to a secret room, filled with creepy antique dolls and dusty books. As I searched the room, I found a journal that belonged to the old woman. It contained disturbing entries about her descent into madness, and how she had killed her own family and neighbors to please a demonic entity that she had made a deal with. I knew then that I had to get out of this house as fast as possible. I made my way back upstairs, but I was still ambushed by the killer. It was the old woman, still alive and wielding a bloody knife. We struggled, but I managed to overpower her and flee the house. I ran as fast as I could, and eventually I stumbled upon a road where a passing car picked me up and took me to safety. The police investigated the old woman's house and found evidence that linked her to several unsolved murders in the area. I was lucky to have escaped with my life, but the memories of that terrifying night have haunted me ever since. I now have a deep fear of old abandoned houses and the horror that they may hold. Thank you for listening. If you like this type of content, please consider subscribing and liking to my channel, and I will see you on the next one.